Welcome to the wild world of the diagnostic laboratory industry, where we focus on science, compliance, sales marketing, and self-mastery. Welcome to Lab Results with Blake. I'm your host, Blake Bourque. So I'm still a white belt, and I mean that probably in more ways than one. But in my dojo, whenever a martial artist leaves and gets out of the stream, as we say, and stops practicing, stops going to school, maybe moves away, out of a sign of respect, they come back. Didn't matter what their rank was, they come back with a white belt on. And so I am still a white belt, and I have been a white belt now for the last 3 months that I've been going back to and I carry my yellow belt in my bag, and every time I go into the dojo, I'm thinking this is the day that he's going to tell me I can put my yellow belt on. But that's not the case. And in fact, we kind of had a rank test the first week in November. And there was things that I didn't know. There were things on the white belt sheet that certain break falls, where I would, when you jump and you fall on your hands, and where you slap the ground and go on your hip, and you come into a protective stance where you're like literally protecting your nanas, and you have your foot up in like a side kick. If you're listening to the audio, I'm trying to be as descriptive as possible, but ultimately there are very life-saving type of techniques that I had forgotten. And you don't get to go from a white belt to a yellow belt because you know other stuff. You must master what is actually on the white belt sheet. You can't study what's on the orange belt sheet. You can't study what's on the green belt sheet. You need to master what's on the white belt sheet at that level, and then you can be a yellow belt. And you study what's on the yellow belt, and then you can be an orange belt, or a yellow stripe, and then an orange belt, and then a blue, and then a green, and then a purple, and then a brown. Why am I talking about this right now on a Diagnostic Lab podcast? Because we as sales people forget the fact that we were once white belts. And there are life-saving sales skills that exist that you should know. And we forget them if we hop out of the stream. In fact, we'll forget them even if we become purple belts. That white belt and that yellow belt, those basic martial arts moves, those fundamental, how to throw a punch, how to throw a front kick, how to throw a side kick, how to fall without hurting yourself. These are the things that we pick up whenever we first learn how to cold call. These are asking questions from a curious standpoint, not from a leading question standpoint. This is collecting information online and through social searches and through phone calls before you get out there and talk to somebody, not trying to wing it last minute, but really staying up all night and getting the presentation right and dialed in is important. But what's more important is the first time you closed a deal and you did it because you cared, right? To me, that's white belt. You joined martial arts because you wanted to learn something about yourself or something that could save your life. Or you joined the sport as a kid because you wanted to play in the big game. You wanted to be there. You played soccer because you wanted to score a goal. You played football because you wanted to score a touchdown, or you just wanted to be a part of something. And we forget that, right? As we grow inside of our careers, we get more and more clients. We have more and more BS, more and more paperwork, more and more disappointment, more and more questions about commission, more and more lab management who's not sold, a CRM that they put together and clearly they didn't ask sales about it, more and more reports that don't make sense and that aren't aligned, right? Requisition forms that don't actually match final reports, that don't match what's on the website, no social media posting program, no marketing support, right? We forget the white belt. We forget the basics that got us to climb up the ranks in the first place. And I challenge you today to go back to the basic selling skills that got you where you are. think about if you're an amazing salesperson and you're great at what you do, you know there's something about you that's different than everybody else. You know there's something that you got that other people don't have. And it's what makes you unique. And in the same space, you also know there's a lot of work to do. You have some glaring weaknesses. There are some blind spots that you have. There are some real ugly parts of your professional well-being that need work, whether that's in your insecurities, in the way you speak, in the way you spell. My weaknesses, spelling, communication, texting while angry. Shit, don't do that anymore, Blake. Like, there are some real things that I do that could hamper my growth, right? And so you need to have an honest conversation about the white belt inside of you, and realizing that there's basics and there's foundational work that needs to be done at every level of this game. So if you're just getting started, you're going to have to learn how to cold call. You're going to have to learn how to present, how to do a lunch, how to go and actually get lunch prepared. Bro, look, I'm telling you right now, you guys who order delivery and tip 20 bucks, 20% for somebody else to deliver food for you to a doctor's office, you would not work very long for a laboratory that I own. That drives me crazy. One of the things is you have an opportunity to be able to actually serve. All right. So you showing up with the food, super important. I've seen some amazing sales reps who are 1%, and they know they got the jug of tea in their freaking hand because that matters. They're walking through the busiest spot with the food so that way people know that they're about to serve them. That's super important, guys. The way you set up the salad bar, the way that you have, like, I love, first off, to me, the cheapest thing you can do is you can go to, like, I don't know if you guys have like Albertsons or these grocery stores that have the big salad bars that you can buy salad by the pound. A lot of times those salads, are like $6, $6.50 a pound, something like that. So you can get, lettuce is light for real, but you can get some spinach, some romaine lettuce. You can organize your trays where you have, 3 meats. You can organize your trays where you have like 5 veggies. You can get your dressings and everything. You can feed 12 people for cheap, really, and have fancy stuff with the cheeses and the olives and all that stuff kind of also set up. But setting that up and giving them an experience, super important. You can go to some restaurants that are specialty restaurants and go and work a deal with them to do a lunch catering for you because it's off menu and they'll do it. Like, we used to order meatballs. They didn't sell meatballs, but we went to this place that had amazing meatballs and we said, hey, can you do 12 meatballs for us? And they said, yeah, but we don't sell them. Like, okay, cool. What if we pay $2 a meatball? And they're like, yeah, that seems fair. On the menu, their spaghetti's like $18 for 2 meatballs. We got $2 a meatball. They said, yeah. So we did that until they told us no. Moral of the story is there's some basics that you're going to have to find out if you're just getting into this, and you need to work inside of a budget, and there's a lot of fun that can happen in that place for you. So don't shy away from that work. Once you get past the luncheons and doing things at a low cost per head, and being able to hold the attention of people who are lying to your face, you're going to realize that your success is in the follow-up. It's in the follow-up, and it's in the little things. It's like getting cell phone numbers. I'm telling you, it's not taking no for an answer. It's finding clever ways to be able to get not business cards or not the email address up front, but actually getting a cell phone number, actually getting contact information, being able to open up a conversation with having enough courage to say, hey, I know this isn't normal, but when's a good time for us to just have a conversation about if this is the right fit for you or not? I'd love to figure out if there's a way for us to help your patients. That's really what I'm here for, is I want to figure out if my laboratory is the right fit for you and your patient care. We got other doctors that are using us, that are doing great with us, that are sending us a ton of samples up front. They said this, your nurse practitioner told me that. If that's true, I really think we can help. I'd love to figure out what's a good time. Should I come back tomorrow morning, 7:45 with a cup of coffee? Why not? If you have the person in the room with 12 people, you're never going to be able to have the conversation that you want to have. So use the big one, the big lunch, for an opportunity to be able to segment and carve out to have individual time. These are some things like this isn't like a how to do sales course. People pay me for that. This is just driving home the point that once you figure out how to serve and you do that well, and you figure out how to isolate for the purpose of being able to have one-on-one meaningful connection, right? Then, and you follow up, then you're going to realize the secret is in the follow through. Because following up with somebody to get them to say yes is one thing. Following through to actually do the shit that you said that you were going to do. You were going to bring supplies whenever you said you were going to bring them. You were going to do the training. You'd have a portal cheat sheet. You'd have a video to show them what they were going to do. You literally do all those things. That's just as important. It's one of the reasons why it's tough to be a player and a coach. All right. I've struggled with being a player and a coach my entire career. One of the hardest parts for a sales leader to do and a sales manager who used to be just a sales rep is not taking responsibility for things to get done. If you're a sales leader and you're doing calls and you're doing ride-alongs, shut your face. If you're going to give an example of how to do something, great. Any of the work needs to be owned and claimed by your sales rep. Do not put yourself in a situation where all of a sudden now you're having to do tasks, because what's going to happen is you're not going to do them. You're going to get on your plane. You're going to go somewhere else. And your salesperson who didn't own them is also not going to do them. And it's just going to be a big waste of time. White belt stuff at every single level. Go back to the basics, right? Learn to serve, learn to follow up, learn to follow through, right? Be consistent. Ask for referrals. The basic stuff that got you where they got. These relationships, you want to have them for a lifetime. I'm not ever going into a doctor's office thinking that this is a one-night stand. This is not a wham, bam, thank you, man type of an operation. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a relationship-driven business. Your Rolodex is what is of value, right? You need to protect those relationships from predatory lab leaders. You're a salesperson who's only as good as their relationships. You must protect those relationships. It's the truth. And so if you find yourself in a situation where you are desperate because you realize that the laboratory that you're working with or working for, they're not good people. They're not telling the truth. They're not giving a great lab product. Reach out to us, because I do have good laboratories that I know of. I've got great laboratories that I work with, and I'd be happy to give them a referral with your name on it, right? So if you're in a situation where you've mastered this and you're a black belt, I'll encourage you, go back to that white belt level and build on the basics. But if you're a black belt and you're surrounded by white belts, if you're a black belt and you look at your lab leadership and say, these guys, they don't understand the basics. They don't understand what it actually takes to be great. They don't care about the quality of the product because they've never had to stand behind it, because they've always lied. The way that they got here was through manipulation. They didn't actually have to test. They didn't have to do the forms. They purchased their black belts. They're fake black belts. If you're a black belt sales rep and you're surrounded by white belts, reach out, because they got some black belt labs that would love to have you. Guys, you guys be great. Like this podcast, share this podcast. More importantly, if you know somebody who needs some help with their laboratories, somebody who could be a guest on the podcast, DM us, let me know. I'd love to follow up with them. But for you yourself, get back to the basics, guys. I'm telling you, man, you can never be too good at the basics. Navy SEALs say this all the time. What we're the best at is we're the best at the basics. You've been listening to Lab Results with Blake, with your host, Blake Bourque. Please like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Remember, greatness is contagious.